Thank you, Mr. President. Today, the House of Representatives is voting on legislation dealing with Farm Bill and food stamps. Recently, this week, the House of Representatives broke with 40 years of tradition, precedent, common sense, and perhaps human decency when it bowed to partisan politics and passed a farm bill without a nutrition title. They pulled apart what traditionally urban and rural interests have done in this country, coming together to pass a farm bill, connecting it with a nutrition title, where it served rural America, it served urban America, it served hungry kids. It was good for hungry kids, it was good for economic development, it was good for conservation and the environment. The House leadership has announced that later today, sometime this afternoon, the House will vote on a bill that would cut the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, by nearly $40 billion. They're taking this bill up because the $20 billion in punitive SNAP cuts that they failed to pass earlier this year wasn't enough for the majority. They don't only cut $20 billion, $20 billion, $20,000 million, $20 billion in cuts when the average family gets $4.45 per day. Cutting $20 billion was bad enough. That wasn't good enough for those members of the House of Representatives who want to see cuts twice as big. Many of those members of the House of Representatives, or at least some of them, are farmers themselves who get huge farm subsidies. It begs the issue a little bit. For some of my colleagues have seen the movie Lincoln. One point, President Lincoln, at listening but perhaps not entirely hearing his staff, who exhorted him to spend more time in the White House, winning the war, freeing the slaves, preserving the Union, President Lincoln said, I need to go out and get my public opinion baths. Well, I suggest that maybe more of us, those particularly that are voting to cut SNAP, to cut food stamps, $40 billion, they may want to go out and listen to what people not dressed like this, not working around here, that get good benefits and decent salaries, not highly paid congressmen and senators, not the lobbyists that they may brunch with on Sunday when those members don't go back home, but go out and talk to somebody at a union hall, go out and talk to somebody in a shopping mall, go out and talk to somebody at a school where children, I heard stories today at my weekly coffee, where a woman teaching in Columbus told us that a woman whose daughter teaches in Columbus told us that on the school lunch program that she has seen children take some of the food and put it in their pockets so they can take home to their brothers and sisters or for the weekend or for their mom or dad. So when I see in this still difficult economy, when people receive $4.45 per day on the average for SNAP, for food stamps, people in the House of Representatives want to cut nearly $40 billion. It wasn't enough that 2 million Americans could lose SNAP benefits. It wasn't enough to them in the first bill that more than 200,000 children could lose access to the free and reduced price lunch program. They want to make it harder, and they can say whatever they want. They can say that, well, people, I don't know, do they get addicted to food stamps? They dig food stamps because they don't want to work. Well, the fact is, as Chairwoman Stabenow points out, the chair of the Agriculture Committee, in the next 10 years, 14 million Americans will leave the SNAP program. Why is that if we don't do this? Why will 14 million people leave the SNAP program? Because they'll get better paying jobs, because they don't want to be in the SNAP program. Most people that get food stamps would rather not. They'd rather have enough food on the table. They'd rather have enough purchasing power to go to the grocery store and buy food with their own money that they've earned so they can bring that food home and serve their children. That's what most people want to do. I spoke to a woman in Hamilton, Ohio, some time ago, who told me that early in the month, she would take her son, her 9-year-old son, occasionally would take him to McDonald's or take him to a fast food restaurant, maybe once the first week in the month. Second week, she could maybe serve him a hamburger. She could serve him meat. Third week of the month, she began to scrape. This is a woman that had a full-time job, volunteered taught Sunday school, volunteered with the Cub Scouts for her son, was a very devoted single mother. The fourth week of the month, what typically happened is she looked at me in her blue eyes and she said, you know, I say to my son, I'm sitting there with my son that last week of the month, and He says, Mom, how come you aren't eating? And she said, well, I'm just not hungry. Well, she was hungry. She just had to choose with the end of the month, does the money go for my son or does it go for me? And like most mothers and fathers, they choose to do it for their children. I mean, that's the backdrop of this. If more of my colleagues would follow the admonition of Abraham Lincoln and go out and get a public opinion bath and listen to what real people were saying, not people that dress like this, not people that sit in Congress, not lobbyists that may buy them lunch and come to their fundraisers, but really listen to what people have to say about what this means. And understand, Mr. President, as you know, and the work you've done in your state of Connecticut, how most of these people getting benefits are children. 85% of people receiving food assistance are children or their parents or people with disabilities or seniors. And many of them have jobs, but their jobs paying $9 an hour. Again, this isn't something they do by choice in the great majority of cases. It's something that they feel they have to do. They're mothers and fathers who get up in the morning trying to give their children a better future. It's the millions of Americans who head out every day looking for work so they can pay their bills and put food on the table. As I said, almost 90%, 80-some% of SNAP households are made up of seniors and the disabled and families with children. 1 out of 6 Americans worry about where their next meal is coming from. 1 out of 6 Americans. How many people in this body have ever really thought that way, have talked to people that way, have tried to put themselves in the place of somebody as 15, 16, 17% of Americans? 1 out of 6 worry where their next meal comes from. And then we have the body down the hall, the House of Representatives, who vote it's just not enough. $20 billion in cuts isn't enough. Let's do $40 billion. Maybe we'll do more than that. My colleagues in the Congress suggest that SNAP participation's grown too big. They bemoan the state of our economy, the still too high unemployment rate. We all do. I share that concern. But we must do more to help jumpstart economy. I'll work with anyone who seeks to do so. Mr. President, we know how important these benefits are to our brothers and sisters from Cleveland to Cincinnati, from rural Appalachia to farmlands in western Ohio, all across this country. It's important that we stand strong on this. We need a farm bill. We need a farm bill that serves agriculture. We need a farm bill that serves rural development. We need a farm bill that serves conservation in the environment. We need a farm bill that helps us provide energy. And we need a farm bill that provides nutrition assistance. Mr. President, I yield the floor.